Hi, my name is Naomi Schaefer-Riley, and I am the author of The Faculty Lounges and Other Reasons Why You Won't Get the College Education You Paid For.
My name is Dan Hammermesh. I'm the Sue Killam Professor of Economics at the University of Texas at Austin.
Well, the problem that I focus on in the book is tenure.
No, it's not tenure at all. It's two things. One, lack of funding in public higher education, which has caused public higher ed, which is 2/3 or 3/4 of higher ed, to fall down relatively in terms of quality compared to privates. The other thing is, and this has been true since it started, is basically the lack of managers' willingness to manage, to make hard decisions.
I think that the institution of tenure has caused innumerable problems in higher education. The first problem that I identify is the focus on research over teaching that has plagued universities at every level in this country.
Research informs teaching. I can give you cases where my own research is used directly in my intro class to make kids think. That is our job. We're not training people. This is not a technical institute. We're trying to educate people, to teach them how to think, and that requires a system of freedom.
Tenure was basically a system designed to reward research, and it is not designed to reward teaching. Teaching is a dynamic profession. It requires constant evaluation, and giving someone a job for life without continuing to evaluate the quality of their teaching is a big mistake, I think, and it really hurts the quality of the education that students are getting.
They've gotten rid of a number of people here, so it's not like tenure is ironclad no matter what you do. It's not even a matter of you have to rape the president's wife to get fired. I mean, gross incompetence at some level will get you fired from tenure here. And so whether it should be more people fired or fewer, I'm not sure. But there are mechanisms for the grossly incompetent. It's not a lifetime guarantee of employment.
I think there are a couple of ways to look at it. The first one is to keep in mind what the whole American higher education landscape looks like. The first thing to remember is that it doesn't look like it did 50 years ago or 100 years ago. A lot of the educational subjects that we are teaching are vocational subjects or remedial subjects. And I think that, in order to teach an introductory algebra class, you don't need a great deal of academic freedom. You don't need to be going out on a limb and talking about controversial subjects very often.
If nothing else, protecting political speech, which is often related to one's classwork and one's research. To me, that's the most important value of tenure. It's not like, oh, we're protecting Galileo. It's a medieval problem. It doesn't exist anymore. It exists today and would exist a heck of a lot more if these guys got their way.
But I think the second question is to evaluate. Has tenure protected dissent on campus? Is it an area where people feel free to speak up? Is there a lot of intellectual diversity on campus? And I don't think that's the case. I don't think tenure has passed that test. I mean, and I'm speaking here not only of kind of the political views of professors, which everyone knows are kind of uniformly liberal, but even within different disciplines.
I get comments all the time. I teach the biggest class on campus. I teach 550 kids in intro econ microeconomics. And I always get kids saying, you're an ultra-liberal. And believe me, if their fathers were state reps or their mothers were state senators, I can well imagine without tenure they would go to them and I would hear about it. As a tenured professor, I can just say, don't bother me. Okay, I've been teaching for 42 years. I still get excellent evaluations. So in the classroom, it protects the speech of people who've demonstrated they have some bona fides in the field. That's the point that's not made often enough. The other is research. Okay, I can work on whatever I want. Okay, I think it meets the quality standards of my profession still. But I know if I didn't have tenure, I would be doing things that would probably be worrisome and might cause people to object. It's not going to be. The private schools have enough good sense, enough commitment, enough lack of relationship to antediluvian troglodytic legislators, which of course we have none of those in Texas, that it's not going to be eliminated there.
I don't think you could get rid of tenure for the people who have it today. I mean, there's a contract system in place, and I'm not proposing that we pull the rug out from under people who had this promise made to them. But if you go forward and say we are no longer going to tenure professors and do instead what I advocate, which is a multi-year renewable contracts. Maybe start off with a 3-year contract and give someone a 5-year contract. Depending on how they perform, I think higher education would start to look a lot like the rest of the American economy.
What would happen is the best people at a place like the University of Texas would go to the better private schools. You'd be left with a third-rate faculty, and you'd be having classes like our mediocre non-research university would have. That'd be the result. It wouldn't wipe it out in higher ed. Many schools, privates, are much more sensible than this. The Michigans, the Wisconsins, the Berkeleys, the UCLAs, which are the top public schools in my view, have a bit more sense than appears to be being exhibited right now in Texas.
I think what you'd see is you'd see more movement in the higher education market. You'd see academics, even those who think that tenure is the be-all and end-all, they get stuck in the middle of North Dakota, because they got a tenured job, and they can never leave because no one else is going to give them tenure, and job security is the be-all and end-all. So I think you'd see more movement. I don't think you'd see a lot of difference in the salaries. You might have to bump up some professors' salaries a little bit in order to make up for the lack of tenure. But for the most part, I think you would see, an improvement in the quality. I think you'd see an improvement in teaching, and I think you'd really kind of shake things up. A lot of the reforms people are talking about now, whether they're curricular reforms, political reforms, reforms about the money that's coming in and out, the faculty always wins those battles because they are there forever. It is a battle of attrition, and the faculty will always win.
It's one thing for a university administrator to say something about this, but most of those guys haven't been in the classroom in a dog's age, okay? So it's up to professors who are articulate, who've been doing this for a while and thought about it, to get out there and say, look, this is what the university is about. And if you change it, you will make an inferior university, and in fact, you might save the taxpayer a few bucks, but in the end, you will hurt the taxpayer, because you're hurting the human capital formation in the state of Texas. This is not helping Texas, this hurts Texas. All they're doing is thinking about saving a few of their supporters a few dollars in the very short run.
Higher education is a very, conservative, and I don't mean politically, but it's a conservative industry. It does not want to change very much. Tenure is actually part of that. But so I think reform is going to take a while, but it's going to require a lot of, people, a lot of the parties concerned, whether it's students or parents or taxpayers, really kind of educating themselves about what the issues are inside of this, somewhat complex area.
But I think the crucial thing is not to think that the sole goal of a university system is to save dollars. The question is, are you getting the money for the buck? And if you change something, what are the costs of making that change? In the case of giving up tenure, I admit there's a lot of incompetence. There is in every organization. The question is it worth giving it up in order to save a few bucks on those incompetence? The answer seems clear to me, no.